The secondary dump known as Unrivaled is rapidly on its way to becoming the non-existent dump. You know, I questioned the long-term validity of this league when it launched, and I'm damn sure questioning it now. Hell, I am no longer questioning it. I can tell you with almost 100% certainty, Unrivaled is on the pathway to bankruptcy. Unrivaled is well on its way to being out of business. Now, it's not happening tomorrow. Might not even happen next year. But 3 years from now, 5 years from now, Unrivaled will be unremembered. How many times are we going to do this? How many times are people with too much money going to invest their money into a venture where the end result is always the same? The end result is always, and I mean always, huge, embarrassing failure. We have seen this same story over and over and over. We already know how this movie ends. 25 years ago, Vince McMahon had the golden touch. Vince McMahon had the ability to turn a steaming turd into a golden nugget. The WWF had just defeated WCW and purchased their only legitimate competition. But instead of focusing on ways to maintain the popularity of orchestrated combat, Vince McMahon decided that he was going to compete with the NFL. At the time, in the early 2000s, the NFL wasn't as popular as it is today, but this had already been tried in the 1980s with the USFL, and it ended in huge, embarrassing failure. Spring of 2001. Vince McMahon launches the XFL. Now, the X stood for extreme because this was, without a doubt, extremely bad football. As expected, the first week, 2 weeks of the season, the XFL was performing well. To his credit, Vince McMahon was a brilliant promoter. He could convince men attending the Butt Bongo Festival to buy tickets to the strip club. Leading up to its launch, Vince McMahon generated mainstream interest in the XFL. Problem was, and this is often the problem with all of these secondary leagues, Vince McMahon failed to deliver. And he failed to deliver because Vince McMahon was missing the one thing that you needed to give a secondary league the chance to survive. Vince McMahon was missing talented stars. You see, the problem with these secondary leagues, the problem they always run into, the product is never as good as the original. The USFL, the UFL, the XFL, and wrestling you have AEW, and soccer, Major League Soccer, can't compete with the Premier Leagues over in Europe. The reason the product is never as good as the original is because the players in these secondary leagues, they weren't good enough to play in the NFL. But KC, that's not the case with Unrivaled. They are featuring legitimate WNBA players. These elite athletes are huge stars. Yeah, that's true. Unrivaled definitely features WNBA players, but they're only fulfilling half the equation needed to ensure their success. Unrivaled might have players with talent, but they don't have stars. And going into this season, Unrivaled will have fewer stars than they had during their inaugural season of huge, embarrassing failure because high-profile WNBA players, they are refusing to participate. They are rejecting Unrivaled. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. So I want to get to the sponsor for today's video, my good friends at It's Grill 30. One of my favorite things to do to relax is grill. Some dudes find cutting grass to be relaxing. I find the entire process of grilling to be relaxing. If you've ever grilled, You know, one of the most critical steps is seasoning the meat. And some of the best seasoning I've found on the market is from It's Grill 30. Seasoning from It's Grill 30 is processed in small batches to ensure the highest quality. There are no fillers, and every container is custom made and processed right here in America. My favorite seasoning from It's Grill 30, Make America Grill Again. The other night, I used this seasoning on some steaks. It was the only seasoning that I used. My wife said it was the best steaks I have ever made. It's Grill 30 is owned by a Marine Corps veteran who has decades of grilling experience. With Christmas coming up, this would make the perfect stocking stuffer for the men in your family. So click the link in the description below. Use my promo code BTL15, BTL15. Receive 15% off your first purchase with It's Grill 30. Headline at the New York Post. Sabrina Ionescu among WNBA players not returning to Unrivaled this offseason. Now, you got to remember, last season, Unrivaled was featuring players that the media claims are high profile. The only notable players I remember that turned Unrivaled down were A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark. And I struggle to include AJ Wilson because even if she pretended to play basketball with Unrivaled last year, they still were not going to draw flies to a fresh turd. If you don't believe me, look at ticket prices for the WNBA Finals last month. AJ Wilson and the Las Vegas Anonymous Faces became the inaugural winners of the Platinum Pooper by defeating the Phoenix Masculines. There was so much interest in the chase for the Platinum Pooper, tickets were selling for less than $40. The truth is, the only player that could elevate Unrivaled is Caitlin Clark, and the Rue from Waterloo refuses to be associated with this secondary dump. Last season, Unrivaled had Sabrina Ionescu. They had Angel Reese, who I am constantly told is a major star, yet for some weird reason, every time I see highlights of Angel Reese missing layups, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of empty seats in the background. To make matters worse, Bob Griner has also declined the invitation to play for Unrivaled, but that's okay. Nafisha Collier and Bree Stu, the co-founders of this painfully boring product, they have spent the last few weeks working the phones to find suitable replacements for Angel Reese, Sabrina Ionescu, and Bob Griner. And they think they have found suitable replacements for these three players who jumped aboard the lifeboat to get away from the sinking Titanic. Listen to these mainstream stars who are replacing Angel Reese, Sabrina Ionescu, and Bob Griner. Dominique Malonga, Rebecca Allen, Ari McDonald. Who, and who? Even though I don't waste my time watching too much pretend basketball, I do cover the WNBA throughout the summer. I am familiar with most of the players pretending to play basketball in this league. I have never heard of these replacement players. But KC Unrivaled signed Paige Bueckers. She's making $350,000. Wowzer! She's gonna be the biggest star in the league. Looking at the current roster of players, Paige Bueckers is the only recognizable name in the league, and I have absolutely no faith that Paige Bueckers will draw an audience because throughout the WNBA season, she couldn't give away free tickets to the community college that the Dallas Wankers are playing their home games in. In just their second season, Unrivaled is struggling to attract high-profile players. The question is why? On the surface, it doesn't make sense. Unrivaled is offering significantly more money than most of these players are making in the WNBA. So, why is there a complete lack of interest from players? Well, players like Angel Reese and Sabrina Ionescu, they are busy with outside ventures. Angel Reese has been involved with fashion. I think recently she was doing some modeling for Victoria's Secret. Obviously, Bob Griner is busy this offseason. My inside sources are telling me that Bob signed a lucrative contract with Just for Men. She also has this deal with the fertilizer division of Roundup, where instead of weed killer, they are selling weed enhancing fertilizer. All kidding aside, I'm sure Brittney Griner is passing on Unrivaled this season so she can spend the offseason recovering from injury. But the conspiracy part of my brain is wondering if some of the more high profile players are being encouraged not to join Unrivaled. I originally floated this theory weeks ago when Caitlin Clark announced that she was rejecting Unrivaled. It is no secret that Kat Engelbert and Nafisha Collier, they don't like each other. It's no secret that the WNBA views Unrivaled as competition. Well, Casey, that's not true. Earlier this year, the WNBA claimed that they were supporting Unrivaled and they are not competitors. Yeah, I look down the list of people that I trust. There's only 2 letters on this list. Neither one of those letters include WNBA. Seriously, though, think about it. Right now, the WNBA is battling players for a new collective bargaining agreement. Players are using Unrivaled as leverage to maximize their potential salaries in the WNBA. With that being the case, why would the WNBA want their biggest stars to be playing and elevating a rival league? You don't think it's possible that Adam Silver asked Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to reject Unrivaled? Hell, we've got starting players in the NBA allegedly fixing games. The Mavs traded Luka Doncic and immediately landed the #1 pick in the draft, Cooper Flagg. The Clippers were allegedly subverting the salary cap and paying Kawhi Leonard $28 million for a no-show job to go along with the no-show job that he's had for years in the NBA. So, do you really not think it's possible that Adam Silver encouraged or influenced the WNBA's biggest stars to not join and elevate a rival league? If you're Unrivaled, this is a serious problem. Your ratings were in the pooper last season when you had a little bit of star power. Going into this season, there's not a player in your league that is capable of drawing a mainstream audience. Unrivaled has a 6-year deal with TNT, but from what I understand, TNT has an out clause in the contract. After the 3rd season, if TNT isn't satisfied with Unrivaled, they can pull out of the deal. If that happens, it's over. If Unrivaled loses their television deal, it's over. This always happens with these secondary leagues, and this is especially true in basketball because basketball is heavily reliant on star players. You cannot survive without star players. Outside of Paige Beckers, who struggled to draw in the WNBA, outside of Paige Beckers, Unrivaled is going into their 2nd season with no stars. You tell me how this league survives. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.